The grand ballroom fell silent when laughter erupted from the billionaire's table. They mocked the quiet black woman standing alone near the stage. Little did they know, within minutes, she would hold the power to shatter their empire. The grand ballroom of the Manhattan Crown Hotel glowed under golden chandeliers, its marble floor alive with chatter, laughter, and the clinking of crystal glasses. The event was a showcase of power, wealth, and influence, an exclusive charity gala where billionaires mingled and competed subtly for attention. At the center of it all sat the Langfords, a white billionaire family whose fortune came from oil and real estate. Their table was the loudest, their jewels the brightest, and their arrogance impossible to miss. When a young black woman entered, dressed in a modest navy gown with no flashy diamonds or entourage, the Langfords noticed immediately. They leaned close, whispering sharp words behind polite smiles. "Who let her in here?" one of the daughters sneered. Another chuckled, calling her another social climber pretending to belong. The father smirked, swirling his wine as he muttered something cruel enough to make his table burst into laughter. Their mockery wasn't hidden, it was loud enough for nearby guests to hear, and the humiliation lingered in the air. The woman, however, didn't flinch. She stood quietly near the stage, her eyes calm, her posture steady, as though their words couldn't touch her. To everyone else, she appeared to be a nobody, a misplaced guest at a table of kings. Yet there was something unshakable about the way she carried herself, something that made a few curious guests glance twice. But the Langfords were too blinded by their own pride to notice. To them, she was nothing more than a target for ridicule. They had no idea that the woman they mocked so openly would soon hold their future in her hands. And with one decision, she would turn their laughter into silence the world would never forget. The night's program moved forward with a buzz of conversations and clinking glasses, but whispers about the unknown woman still lingered in the air. Reporters leaned on tiptoes, curious to learn her identity, while the Langfords continued their smug commentary, certain she was no more than an accidental guest or someone clinging to the edges of power. Then the host of the evening, a well-respected business leader, stepped onto the stage and called for silence. With a warm smile, he introduced the next guest of honor, a visionary leader, a dealmaker whose decisions had the power to change global markets. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "please welcome Dr. Maya Carter, the chief negotiator behind the upcoming $5 billion renewable energy project." Gasps rippled through the hall. Heads turned sharply toward the woman in the navy gown, the very same woman the Langfords had ridiculed minutes earlier. Cameras began flashing like lightning, and murmurs rose to a roar as people realized she was not a nobody at all, but the key decision-maker everyone had been waiting to see. The Langfords froze in their seats, their smiles vanishing as the truth sank in. Their mocking laughter echoed back at them, bitter now and shameful. Maya walked toward the stage with measured grace, her presence commanding without the need for jewels or grand display. She carried herself with quiet authority, her every step a reminder that true power needs no announcement. While the crowd applauded, the Langfords exchanged anxious glances, realizing the woman they had insulted was not just important, she was the one with the power to decide their future. What had begun as a night of arrogance was about to turn into a lesson they would never forget. The applause echoed as Maya Carter reached the podium, her calm presence commanding the room in a way that wealth and arrogance never could. The billionaires who had laughed at her just moments before now sat stiff in their chairs, suddenly realizing they had underestimated the woman who held more power than anyone in the hall. Maya adjusted the microphone, her voice steady but warm as she began. She thanked the organizers and the guests, then spoke about the importance of partnerships built not only on profit but on trust, respect, and integrity. Her words flowed with clarity, resonating with everyone listening, but it was when she glanced at the Langford family that the entire hall sensed a shift. With grace, she explained that in her role as chief negotiator, she did not simply evaluate financial numbers. She observed people, their character, and how they treated those around them. A hush fell across the ballroom. Guests exchanged looks, realizing exactly who she was referring to. Maya's eyes lingered on the Langfords for just a moment, not with anger, but with quiet certainty. Her voice carried a weight far heavier than money as she said, "True leadership is not measured by wealth, but by dignity. And no partnership can succeed without respect."
The word struck like thunder.
The Langfords' arrogance crumbled as they squirmed under the gaze of hundreds of witnesses. Their empire, once untouchable, suddenly felt fragile. For the first time in their lives, they were not in control. Maya stood tall at the podium, unshaken and unapologetic, and in that moment, the balance of power shifted entirely. The family that had mocked her now sat powerless, while the woman they had ridiculed held their fate in the palm of her hand. The silence in the ballroom was heavy, broken only by the soft hum of cameras recording every second. The Langfords, who had entered the gala with heads high and laughter loud, now looked cornered, their arrogance stripped away. Desperation flickered across their faces as Maya Carter paused at the podium, letting her words linger in the air. Then, with calm certainty, she continued. I was sent here tonight to confirm the final step of a $5 billion renewable energy deal, she said, her voice echoing against the marble walls. The audience leaned forward, hanging on her every syllable. But partnerships require more than signed contracts and large sums of money. They require respect, fairness, and humanity. Without those, no amount of profit can justify the risk. Gasps spread across the hall. The Langfords' matriarch quickly rose, her voice trembling as she offered an apology, her words clumsy and insincere. The father added frantic promises to do better, while the children sat red-faced, silent for once in their lives. But Maya did not waver. She shook her head softly and said, "Integrity cannot be bought after the damage is done." Then, in front of hundreds of witnesses, she announced, "As of this moment, I am officially canceling the deal." The declaration thundered through the hall. Guests erupted in shocked whispers, reporters scribbled furiously, and cameras flashed like lightning. $5 billion had just disappeared in a single breath. The Langfords slumped in their seats, their empire wounded not by competitors or markets, but by their own arrogance. The very people who had once bowed to their power now looked at them with disdain. For the first time, the Langfords were not feared, admired, or envied, they were pitied. And Maya Carter, calm and resolute, had rewritten the narrative in front of the entire world. The ballroom erupted in a storm of voices, but through the chaos, Maya Carter descended the stage with a calm grace that silenced even her critics. Guests rose to their feet, not in obligation but in genuine admiration, their applause thundering across the hall. For many, it was more than just a business decision they had witnessed. It was a moment of justice, a reminder that dignity could stand taller than wealth. The Langfords sat frozen, their empire's shine dimmed under the harsh light of truth. The matriarch's diamond necklace glittered in vain, a hollow symbol now, while their forced smiles could not disguise the humiliation stamped across their faces. Reporters swarmed the edges of the hall, headlines already forming about the billionaire family who lost a fortune because they couldn't master the simplest human value, respect. Maya, however, did not look back. She walked steadily through the crowd, her head high, shaking hands with those who reached out to her, receiving words of gratitude from people who felt empowered by her courage. Outside, the cool night air greeted her as she stepped into the city lights. She knew the story would spread across the world by morning, but she wasn't seeking fame. Her goal had always been fairness. In canceling the deal, she had proven that no amount of money excused arrogance, and no level of power gave the right to demean others. The lesson was clear and unforgettable. That night, Maya Carter became more than a negotiator. She became a symbol of strength, a living reminder that respect is the true currency of leadership. And for the Langfords, their downfall was not the loss of billions. It was the silence of a room that no longer admired them.